Hey guys, new video here. Icicle, Mine, Deadeye, and Saboteur. In the next couple videos, I would like to focus on blighted maps because I think that blighted maps are basically the core of the league. If you're not running blighted maps, you're not really playing the challenge league, and instead you're kind of like playing standard. And it's kind of cool that the blighted maps, as you'll see some footage above, it kind of allows you to play builds that you might not play in like a regular, like really fast go league, right? So for example, I'm personally don't really like mines that much. I don't like totems that much, but I did end up playing Divine Eyrie Hierophant, and I did play the Deadeye Miner as well as the Saboteur Miner, because when you don't need to move around, when you don't need to focus on like move speed for mapping, and you don't need to focus on just like having like good good mobility, you know what I mean, like and being able to like clear a map in 30 seconds, then a lot more options open up to you. And so the Icicle Mine is some of the most fun I've had in the game. And so because I tried two ascendancies, I feel like I can give my thoughts on both of them. So I decided to go with Eternity Shroud because initially, with the mine rework, I had no idea what was going on in terms of how the mines even worked. I looked on Pyre Ninja, and when I sorted by the Icicle Mine with like the 6-link Icicle Mine, like everyone was a Saboteur, right? There's like a couple Deadeyes there. You sort by DPS, you get these big Eternity Shroud numbers. So I was like, yeah, let's just try that. So I started with a Saboteur. TLDR, I like the Deadeye a lot more if I was going to map, like regular map with it, or if you were going to league start with it, or if you were going to do blighted maps with it, I would choose the Deadeye. For the reasons are that you get the chain. Chain is very nice. I noticed significantly better clear and cleanup with the chain support gem and the +1 on the Deadeye. I don't think you need more than like 2 or 3 chains actually. So there's some options that open up with like bows and stuff, and then with the chains you can even use things like a Riggy, I guess. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So in the gameplay above, you can see it's really casual. I mean, you don't even really need to move. Although in blighted maps, you will it feels like, once again, it feels like there's a lot of like off-screen damage coming in sometimes that'll just like one-shot you. My character didn't have that much HP, but really if you have a tankier character, you can probably just like stand still and you look at the Icicle Mine projectile speed and all that, and you will see that it is it's more than enough to clear the map, because I have an ultra wide screen, right? Currently I'm using an X35 as my monitor, and it's pretty squished, and also my windowed mode is a little bit stretched as well, and you can't really see the monsters on the screen, right? Unless the portal is right there. If you look at the red dots on the screen right now, what you're gonna see is that most of those red dots are going to start disappearing before you ever see them on your actual game window. And I think that's pretty amazing, right? Good props to Grinding Gear for including like the monster indicators, so you can see how effective you are at cleanup. And yeah, it's pretty good, and it's pretty fun. So I'll go into some more details on the Deadeye versus the Saboteur, but let's just go over the gear really quick, because I think that Eternity Shroud is the way to go if you want some big dick damage, right? You just want to feel like your build's super powerful, get like like each Icicle Shard will do like 500 to 1,000,000 damage, things like that. And it really gives you something to work for in terms of if you want to spend more money on the build, right? Because ARPG, you should be like trying to make your character a little bit more powerful. So of course the core, if you do want to go Eternity Shroud, like a mostly Chow's damage build, is this chest. And so basically what it does is that first, the most important thing I think actually nowadays is it's not actually that second line, it's the last line, it's the second to last line. So you gain 5% LE damage per shaper item equipped. And so of course if you have a lot of them, you gain basically a true more multiplier. And then if everything is shaped, then you can ignore the monster Chow's resist, meaning that when you hit a monster, their Chow's resistance is 0. Things like despair and other things that might reduce their resist to 0 will have no effect, right? It is just 0, so like you can think of it as like true damage. And this is very good for mobs that do have a little bit of Chow's resist, because imagine if a monster has let's say it has like 35 Chow's resist, right? So basically if you remove that, right, you're not actually doing 35% more damage. You're doing like Okay, it's hard. I'm pretty fatigued right now. I just woke up, but think of it as like when a monster has more and more challenge resist, right? Especially if you have challenge resist roll on a map, when you ignore their challenge resist from any amount, you know, from any amount, you can do like up to, you know, sometimes 100% more damage based on the percentage that the monster has. Okay, now why is this like not so important in my opinion? Because if you go to PvDB, you can see the kind of like the data mine, the behind the scenes stats of any monster, and usually the vast majority of monsters that you will encounter do not have any challenge res already, right? And so basically that line does nothing. Now, if there is a map roll where they get the resistance to the purple damage, right? And in those cases, it also doesn't matter because you have so much damage from this item and setting up your character with this item that a white, a blue, and a yellow monster, it'll fail to matter anyways. And then map bosses, as we know, get one shot pretty much on any skill these days. So it does help a little bit, but it is not as crazy as it might seem. But if you can't get all shaper gear, why not, right? So this is the chest that you would use. If I weren't gonna use this, then I would probably just go for something. I don't know if you want to go low life, but I think low life is also a pretty amazing choice because if you go regular shavs, you can get pain attunement on your tree. So when you're low life, you will have 30% more damage. So it's like having an extra support gem on there, as well as having the ability to have, you know, you could do things like a 150% aura. You can do a 35/25 aura. So like two additional auras on your life. There's all kinds of things that open up to you when you are low life, and it's pretty cool, right? So that's an option that you can swap to there. The helmet, the one I'm deciding to use, is Icicle Mine Throwing Speed. Now, I really like Mine Throwing Speed because if you look at my character, let me fast forward here on this. I'm just like basically watching a video here. Let me fast forward so you can see another map here. Okay, this is a Chiubi zone right here. Okay, let me back up a little bit here. All right, as you can see, very nice video production going on here. So if you look at my Mine Throwing Speed, it's really fast, right? And then basically the way it works is that the mines reserve a flat mana cost. So you can basically have a maximum mine count. Mine's 19. You might have 23 if you have a minefield support. But getting to that cap, right? As long as you have that mana reserved, and then you have a mana flat, so that right when it's used up, because the way that the detonate works is that the detonate will detonate all the mines that are currently on the ground, and then as you're throwing the mines, it'll detonate those too, right? To a certain extent. And so you want to be able to get out as many mines as you can in the detonation window because there are stacking benefits. You can read the Icicle Mine Gem, Pyre class gem, Storm Blast, what have you. And so it's kind of like a exponential scaling, like for a few seconds at least, for how many mines that you have out. So for me, I valued mine throwing speed so much that I try to go as much mine throwing speed as possible, so that I can really get those big cascades going. Okay, so with the helmet chant, I went with the throwing speed, but there are other options that are fine. I think Icicle Mine has like a multi. If you just care about flat damages, that's fine as well. This helmet I crafted myself a couple streams ago. This was using so basically getting the base with the enchant is actually pretty easy these days. Okay, they're not like too expensive, right? We're not looking at a bow, fractal thoughts enchant, you know, you're looking at a couple exalts. And what I used was a pristine, so I could get a life roll, a hollow, which is 110c, so I can get an abyssal socket roll, because abyssal socket is pretty huge if you can get one for free on rare gear, and a lot of time you are using rare gear, so very easy to add a free abyssal socket. And then I think I used metallic because I think I was missing lightning res, so I got a big lightning resist roll here. And there you go. Jewels, what you're going to look for in the jewels is because now cold damage is not the best for Eternity Shroud, because remember the conversion goes from physical to lightning, lightning to cold, cold to fire, and then fire to child's damage. And so we're missing 2 stages before that, but conversion still helps a lot, right? So I wanted to stick with the base conversion, right? And so what I did is I wanted to add the flat cold damage, and then Icicle Mine also has a pretty nice damage effectiveness, right? Usually skills have around, like, you know, let's say 100% is like baseline. It's pretty good. 110%, you get a tiny bit more for any extra bit of added damage from any source, right? It's amazing. So I added cold damage on my abyssals, and I went with life. And the other things you can get that are really cool are you can get things like, you know, if there's any abyssal jewels that have the term if you haven't done something recently, because the mines aren't really you, right, in terms of if they've crit recently or if they've killed recently, you can add any of those modifiers. You can get like global multi, you can get movement speed and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool. Abyssal jewels add a lot to the build. Things like onslaught and phasing won't work, however, so be careful about that. And so that's the helmet. The amulet that I decided to go for is a resist helmet, or sorry, a resist amulet with some amount of penetration. It's actually pretty cheap on the market right now, and then just crafted life on there, so not too great there. And then I slammed a rarity roll on there when I already had a rarity roll. That's how my rarity roll is a little bit high right there. But you can also go, I guess you just go flat spell damage and even maybe even just some like percentage damage for cold if you want, right? And so what this because you might wonder, why do you penetrate ally resistance if your most of your damage is Chow's damage? Well, if you look at the tooltip is actually mostly Chow's damage, but I do have a significant portion of elemental damage, so that little bit helps. So it's like, let's say it was like split half and half, then you would probably get like, you probably get like 5% more damage. But since I have other penetration and stuff like that, it's a little bit less than 5, but you can understand the math there, right? As for rings, okay, so curse on hit works with mines, even though it's not like you per se. If you have a curse enemies on hit, your mines will apply the curse. So don't worry about like, you know, rings that have curses, or if you corrupt a glove somehow with let's say like elemental weakness, right? Remember, this despair doesn't work because the Chow's damage will ignore if you have all shaper pieces, right? Now, one quick caveat on that is that I think something really cool would be to take off one shaper piece, so that you would have not all shaper. You'd still get the more multiplier from the Eternity Shroud, but you would lose the ignore, and then you curse them with despair. Because in that scenario, you lose 5% Ellie as extra chows. Now remember, that's not 5% more damage, because you already have like, let's say 145% more damage. So it's a little bit less, and same way the Deadeye Chain kind of works after the hits. And now, if you can curse with Despair, Despair adds Chow's damage as a hit, and it adds a possible negative multiplier, it adds a more multiplier if you can bring their resists, you know, let's say like closer to 0 or below 0, right? It can be very big. That's one thing to consider. You don't need the damage, so I never tried it, but I think that's something that in Eternity Shrouds, I think people should actually try that, because I think that getting a Despair on hit, you know, a good candidate for this is a ring, because a Delve ring with a level 5 Despair on hit cannot be shaped. You just won't find that. So what am I doing here? I'm like watching YouTube videos on my, here we go. So that'd be a great candidate for the Despair, or of course, like I said, Despair on hit on a corrupted gloves. Something to consider on not just this build, on any build. I think that'd be a hilarious idea. Okay, the other ring is a Pyre, because I'm starting as cold, and this converts the cold to fire. Okay, I guess I have to talk a little bit about like people who might not know what Eternity Shroud does in terms of conversion. So if I have all cold, for example, right, and then I get the 5% from the Eternity Shroud, but then I convert, let's say I convert 100% of my cold to fire, right? I get it again, right? Even though now in the tooltip, I have no cold damage, I still get that double dipping. And you can understand why this is so crazy when you start with something that's physical, like Divine Ire, because you have a physical skill that's first you convert to lightning, then the lightning gets converted to the cold, and the cold gets converted to the fire, and it's like, holy shit, you're like triple dipping, quadruple dipping, and it gets pretty nuts. Now with cold, once again, it's a little bit further in the line, but still good. So that's why I went with the Pyre. Okay, let's talk about the weapons. So these weapons are new to this league. You can get plus to like all cold gems, you know, lightning, fire. You can get plus to all spell gems, and you know, on two-handers, this is a little bit. You can have also like +3, +2. It's pretty crazy. So I found these wands right here. right? They already had the +1 and then the gained Ellie as extra chows. Now that's a tier 2, and then I just multi-modded them. Now on these, the multi-mod is questionable because remember, I wanted more mine throwing speed to make the build feel good, to get out of animations faster, to apply more continuous damage faster in these maps. But instead of mine throwing speed, I think crit multi is a good choice, right? That's also a suffix. Now, chance to deal double damage, 5% on each of these, right? These are the same wand. Basically, what it means is that I have a 10% chance to deal double damage. So overall, it's about 10% more damage. But when you get down to it, it's just a little bit extra burst, right? You don't care about like your expected like average DPS increase. You care about like the big burst. And since you're throwing so fast, you have more chances at these big bursts, and it feels really good when just like one shot a boss and stuff like that. So that's what I went with here. But another hilarious thing you might want to try out is I think it's like a 4 or 5 second cooldown on trigger socketed spells, but I wanted to try trigger socketed skill craft because that's also a suffix that could take up the mine throwing speed, and then I would put in a detonate mines with enhance in here, a detonate mines with enhance in here, and then now like I would have 2 additional detonate mines, and I wouldn't need to press the detonate mine button, because one really annoying thing about this build is having to push the detonate mines button, man. It's like too much sometimes, even with the spell totem. Okay, talk about spell totem a little bit. So that's one thing you could try there on the weapons, or you can try any other weapon. I mean, Tremor Rod is pretty hilarious. I'm thinking about using a Tremor Rod to see how it feels. That's kind of cool. Or you just get multi-modded. If you have like your Icicle Mine in the chest and you want to use a two-hander, maybe try to find a +3/+2, because that'd be pretty hilarious as well. Okay. So as for the belt, oh my gosh, a build that doesn't use Headhunter. Once again, I decided to go with a shaper leather belt right here, and so this is just shoring up resist. Nothing too special about this belt at all. As you can see, life, resist. That's about it. The gloves. So I crafted these gloves as well. I bought a shape background fingerless silk gloves for 2 exalts. The eye level doesn't matter. Well, I mean, I think a tier 1 life, if you want to go for that, is eye level 64 or something like that. But it doesn't really matter because you're not gonna get tier 1 life. All right, that's like pretty much impossible. And what you're doing is using fossils. Whenever you use fossils, you don't actually need that high of an eye level, because the fossil rolls are a separate like category, you know what I mean? So what I did is I used for here, what I really wanted was a life roll. I wanted a flat damage roll, because remember, adding damage is good, you know, it has 110% effectiveness. So that was very easy to get with a frigid fossil. And then as you can see, the abyssal socket is always added with the hollow fossil. A little note, it does take up a suffix if you care about that. So maybe 1 less resist. And then so the frigid fossil gave me the cold res and the cold damage. Pristine fossil gave me the life roll. You could technically also get a percentage life roll if you're very lucky. And then I crafted that increased damage during any flash effect. I slammed on the Chow's resist. If I had slammed on like a high tier Chow's resist, these gloves would be godly, right? But I failed, so feels bad. So those gloves are self-crafted, and then as well as the boots. These boots are also self-crafted. I bought a base pair of conjure boots for like 1 or 2 exalts, shaper background, and I used shuddering for speed, because what I wanted was at least 30% move speed on there, and then I used a pristine so that I could get a life roll, hollow again for the abyssal socket, and then I slammed on the chance to dodge attack hits, right? Crafted on the life. Now on these boots, there's a really nice roll that I didn't have on my crafting bench, so I didn't do it, but there's a roll that says cannot be frozen, and I think that might be a little bit better than the percent life, because then you open up a suffix if you're using a magic flask. And yeah, so that was pretty good. The enchant, now you can go with either movement speed, you can go with 10% penetration if you haven't killed recently, and you'll always have that, because when your mines kill, it doesn't count as you, so you always have it. The 10% penetration, I do not want to do lab. I'm not going to run lab, so I just bought what was available, right? And this just happened to have the 120% crit, and right now in my hideout, on my Icicle Mine, I have 62% crit. If I start detonating some mines, what I have is I then have 75% crit. So 75% crit with a diamond flask is 1/16th chance to not crit. So it's huge crit, right? And so basically that helps a lot. That's like having 3 extra power charges right there, but all the time, right? Because it has a if you haven't modifier on that enchant. But you can go with anything else. It's up to you if you can get the penetration or whatever. Okay, so we talked about all the gear here. Let's talk about the flask. I went with a diamond flask of staunching because even though you can get corrupted blood, I'm not actually sure on the there's 2 types of corrupting blood. One is on hit, that won't apply to you. One is on kill. I don't actually know if that applies to you or the mine. If it applies to the mine, you don't even need a corrupting blood. But if you get hit and you get bled, that's super annoying, right? Especially when I don't have any HP. And so I decided to go with the the staunching affix here. But you can kind of change that for warding if you think that might be better for you. Let me some gameplay here. Okay. Cinder Swell is just for the I get a little crit chance on the flask and I get onslaught, so I thought that was pretty cool. You don't actually get the recovery from this because your mines are killing, so that recovery does not work. Okay, so this is for onslaught and crit in 1 flask. I dropped my Quicksilver because I'm doing blighted maps. You don't need to move around that fast, and I switched characters when I was looting, so to a faster Pathfinder. The Dying Sun is really nice. 2 additional projectiles for the Icicle Mine, so instead of 9 I have 11. And the 11, if you get an extra couple projectiles, you might hit another monster faster. And, you know, chains, it might kill a pack, clean up faster, stop the enemy from being able to swing on you earlier, right? So Dying Sun is a little bit extra coverage, and it might look a little bit cooler. Also it protects you against Detonate and Volatiles. So the Adzubi's promise, now this is huge, right? Because this is the one on Eternity Shroud builds where you get, remember when I talked about the double, triple, quadruple dipping? Obviously the Icicle Mine doesn't have the quadruple, but you get this on every stage, right? So when it says 15% LE damage, that's the cold and the fire, okay? And so, and then I mean, if you have any physical added, you know, it'll work for that too. So, and then also Chow's Resist is very strong in this game, right? Lots of caustic ground, lots of zombies, lots of things that can dot you up. Okay, and then the Eternal Mana Flask, Enduring Mana Flask is very strong, and the reason why it is so you see right here, if I'm casting my if I cast my mines, oh, you can't really see because the gameplay isn't on the screen. It's like, this is like pre-recorded footage, but basically when you throw all your mines and then add your killing monster, this fills up super fast. It has 5 uses, right? So you can spam this like 100 times. Just spam as you're killing monsters. You'll never run out of charges, and then all that mana is saved. It's like Slayer Overleach. So let's say you have like, I don't know, like 20,000 mana in the pool. It'll just stay there until until you use your mana, and you kind of need it because like if you look right here, your mana it goes pretty fast. You see my orb right there? Look at that, right? So it'll just keep you able to throw out mines at any time, however much you want, right after the first few kills. So that's really nice there. Okay, so that's basically what there is to talk about with the gearing. Let me show you the tree, and then we can also go over, ooh, how am I gonna do this? Yo, this is like pretty scuffed here. Hold on. Can I do this? Is this fine? Is this fine? All right, this is fine. This is fine. I'm just gonna do this so you can see. Okay, can you see me? Can you see me? Okay, let's do this. Okay. So here's the tree. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. So the Deadeye, the Gathering Winds is animation speed. Animation speed up to 20% applies to your mine throwing speed, right? So you can think of it as a more multiplier. The projectile speed is incredibly strong, okay? If you ever play like a slow projectile build, you'll know how bad it feels when your projectiles are slow. And if you ever use slower projectile support gem, it feels bad as well, right? So definitely you get the far shot, you get the ricochet, and you get this, right? Chain's pretty good. You get a more multiplier on the first hit, and then less of a more multiplier on remaining chains. But man, projectile fields feel so good on a Deadeye, because on a Saboteur you don't get ballistic mastery, and then you also don't get this 30%, right? And then you free up a lot of points if you don't go for phase acro, so you can even get like a little bit of speed, projectile speed here, and here if you want. Okay, for jewels, pure talent, because pure talent I got 7% move speed from this jewel, as well as 0.5 base crit if you connect a shadow, and base crit is incredibly strong, so I went with that. As for a Watcher's Eye, definitely go with a Hatred Watcher's Eye with base crit, because the Hatred will multiply your cold, right, and that'll get converted, and then also base crit is like a more multiplier to crit, super strong. other jewels, you're just gonna get like cold damage. You can get like multi, you can get mind damage, you can get increased life, you know, whatever resist you need. This is basically the tree. I'll have a POB down below, so if you want to see the tree and tweak it a little bit, you know, there's a lot of things you can swap around. For example, I don't need these 2 points here. There's so many points you can swap around if you feel like you have enough crit, don't have enough crit, have enough life, don't have enough life. So yeah, that's basically the tree. Saboteur, what is Saboteur good for? Well, Saboteur has a lot more defenses because you have like native regen, you have a nearby aura for blind. You basically have like a lot of tools that you have like base mine throwing speed, which is kind of cool. If you have like other mines that you want to use, you have like AoE and all this cool stuff. So Saboteur is a lot more tanky, and I definitely noticed that, but it does feel slower, and it doesn't feel as good as Deadeye. I don't know how the best way to explain it. The Deadeye, like the projectiles flying really fast, just feel way better than the Saboteur. But if you don't want to die, definitely go Saboteur. It is a nice ascendancy. There's a reason why most of the Icicle miners, if you see on PoE Ninja, are actually going Saboteur. So they must be onto something. But I'm not like a mine expert or anything. So that's just my thoughts on it. If I were going to play this in under any circumstance, once again, League Star, Endgame, like anything, I'll play Deadeye actually. Okay, well, hardcore, if you're playing hardcore, you might want to go Saboteur, but any other scenario, I would actually go for the Deadeye. Let's talk about the links and everything. So I'm going to switch this over again. Let's see here. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to switch this over to like what I'm using here. Let me fast forward this into some gameplay here. Wait. Okay, here we go. What's going on here? All right, there we go. So talking about the gem links, so I have, wait, you guys, god damn it, can't see the gem information. Can you see it? Okay, there we go. So I'm going with Cold to Fire, Icicle Mine, Chain, Swift Assembly, Inspiration, and Trap and Mine damage. I like Swift Assembly way more, like way more than Minefield. Okay, I tested them both out for a large number of maps, and for me personally, I like Swift Assembly. You might like Minefield better. Minefield has better spread because the mines that come out, you always get 5. You don't have to rely on RNG, and you what ends up happening is that like the mines are spread out, so it's like a little bit more coverage of the projectiles initially if you don't have any chain. So if you're a Saboteur, what I'll do is I'll take out chain and I'll put in pierce, or sorry, not pierce, because on Saboteur you would get pierce right here from piercing shots, right? You can even anoint that if you want, but I think that anointing the destructive apparatus is actually better. So you would actually, for Saboteur, you would take out chain and you can put in Empower and Control Destruction, all that stuff. Now Inspiration is really good because you get you almost always get 40% more damage, and you get increased crit, which is pretty great. And then as for the helm, I have an Ice Golem for extra crit. I just really like the crit. I have a Whale Grace with increased duration, right, for a defensive measure. On Saboteur, I would actually go Phase Acro, and you'll be like pretty much dodge capped whenever you have that up, so that's really nice. This weapon, I have Detonate Mines on Enhanced. That's my self trigger, and then I have a Precision, because Precision is flat mana. You have room for this, and it's a little bit extra crit. Really nice. Like the Precision level, this is currently level 3, but it's like basically the same as at level 1. It's the same as 2 points of crit on the tree. Pretty good. In here, I have a Flame Dash. Now, Flame Dash with Arcane Surge makes it so that it's also a faster casting. It makes the mana a little bit more. So the important thing, though, whatever level you want it at, is 1 Flame Dash triggers the Arcane Surge in the top left corner. Okay, make sure it's 1 and not 2. Okay, or anything else. It has to be 1. Lower your Arcane Surge, even to level 1 if you have to, just so that 1 cast equals 1 Arcane Surge proc. The gloves, I have Hatred with Enlighten and Summon Skitterbots to reduce the mana reservation. Summon Skitterbots is pretty strong. It's a more multiplier. They help you detonate mines. Sometimes AI is not that great, but they are very fast, and they add a they can shock and shield the enemies, and pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. And then the Hatred is just so that you do more cold damage, right? So that you have a multiplier to your icicle mines. What else is there? I also have a Spell Totem. Okay, let's talk about Spell Totem a little bit. Personally, I think that Spell Totem is garbage. I have one just because, like, maybe in some situations it helps me detonate. But here's what happens with Spell Totem. Spell Totem does not actually detonate whenever there's mines on the ground. The spell totem detonates not what you see, not what the mines see, but what it itself sees on the ground. So if you place a spell totem anywhere, if within a small radius it doesn't see an enemy, it will not detonate mines. And in mapping scenarios, blighted map scenarios, since you like one-shot a lot of enemies, the moment you put down the spell totem, like it just does nothing, right? It really does not do anything. It feels really bad. I can see where this might be good in certain like super endgame boss fights, like the deeper bosses. Like Uber Elder won't matter because you're phasing everything, so like, you know, one detonate and you're waiting for the next phase, and you know, it's like, it's kind of weird. So I don't think spell totem is that good. I think a better setup would be actually like just having the trigger in the wands and having cast when damage taken set up, so that you can have like 3 different detonate mine triggers along with your own. Okay, but that's just my opinion. Your thoughts might vary on that. Other things that you can put in is Animate Jardian. So Animate Jardian is super strong with a Kingmaker, with a Leer cast, or a Tyrant's Crown, or with a Victario's Goat Hide Boots. With what else does it help you with? Yeah, those things are pretty good. So you can add that in if you want. Put in a meat shield so it sticks close to you and get that benefit. I might try that out later. And yeah, overall, really good. Try out both classes. They're both good. I like Deadeye better. It is so amazing for blighted maps, and this video has been pretty long. So if you have any questions, stream on Twitch every day, twitch.tv/cukedog_. You can ask me the questions there. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I probably forgot a lot of stuff in this, right? Because I'm kind of a noob at mines, but yeah, try it out. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye.